Yo, what is going on YouTube? It is your boy GZTV. We are back with another video, and we are back with a 2024 American superhero film based on Marvel Comics featuring the characters Deadpool and Wolverine. We have Deadpool and Wolverine, their own movie. We are back again, boys and girls, to close out the Deadpool saga. Strap in, you will not want to miss this video. We have a lot to talk about. This will probably be a pretty long video. We have the ultimate fusion in the X-Men universe. Two of the biggest stars in this corner of the MCU, and they aren't pulling any punches, man. Hugh Jackman's ravenous Wolverine and Ryan Reynolds' witty Deadpool. All in one fucking movie. I mean, come on, I couldn't resist watching this when I saw it hit Disney+. Please keep in mind as well that this is a spoiler review. We are going to go through every last detail of this movie. Not every last detail, but we are going to reveal some things. There are some special cameos in this movie that if you haven't watched it, you should probably not watch this. Please go watch it, you know? Let's not waste any time.
Let's fucking go!
So getting into the premise, this movie follows, once again, Deadpool, you guessed it, huge part of this movie, about 50% of this movie, whose peaceful existence comes crashing down when the Time Variance Authority recruits him to help safeguard the multiverse. He soon unites with his would-be pal, Wolverine, obviously one of the most iconic Marvel characters ever, and the most iconic character in this whole X-Men realm. It had to happen, right? They complete the mission and save his world from an existential threat. Honestly, the idea of multiverses makes me want to vomit in my mouth, but I guess it's Deadpool, and he will make it funny, so it's fine, right? Yes? No? I don't even know how I feel about that stuff. Just watch it for yourself and tell me what you think in the comments. Any thoughts you have about this movie, just let me know in the comments. And there's obviously not much in this for Wolverine, which is kind of the funny part. They kind of drag him out from the depths of his death from Logan, and they bring him here. So there's also things in this movie that, once again, in terms of plot and premise, whatever, it would have been better for me and easier to understand had I been a complete fucking nerd and read the comic books when I was younger. No offense, guys, that is not an insult. If you're a nerd, go fucking you, but I didn't understand some of the stuff in this movie. Getting into the good, man, I have a lot to say good about this movie. A huge positive to start off for me is the comedy this time, compared to especially Deadpool 2, actually works really, really well. And I'm not sure if this movie's more funny than the original Deadpool, but it trumps Deadpool 2. And, you know, you got Hugh Jackman, he adds to it, he kind of mellows it out at the same time. He does a really good job. His character dynamic with the comedy and his role in this movie, it's fucking great. Crazy enough, there were times in this film where Hugh Jackman and even Chris Evans as Johnny were more comical than Deadpool, and that's great to me. That's great to see someone besides Deadpool bring the laughs to the screen. Also, this movie's quite an adventure, and although the plot points and the decisions they make aren't great to me at times, and we will talk about that soon, I still have a good time with it. It's a very fun movie to watch, and I feel like watching this in the theaters would have elevated my experience as well. I watched this at home on a streaming service, so that could definitely, you know, change my experience for sure. Also, as always with most Marvel movies, the quality is great. In terms of what you want out of an action comic book film, Marvel kind of sets the bar. You know, DC does a great job, but Marvel is the bar. Like, if we're being completely honest here, they can never go wrong with that, I feel like. So props to them on that for continuing the quality control and making this an amazing visual experience of a film. The effects were amazing, especially on that opening sequence as well. You know, like, they have the gore, insane action sequences. The intro was fucking great. That was one of my favorite moments of the entire movie, and then you get the cameos. I'm kind of like rapid fire because this is a huge section of my notes, but the cameos were a treat as well. I am going to spoil stuff. Chris Evans is in this fucking movie. Again, spoiler warning, if you didn't watch this movie, exit now, because there's a couple other cameos we will be discussing briefly that you want to watch the movie for. You get Chris Evans in his charm, you know, he also has some Deadpool comedy kind of rub off on him. He's a great character. I'm actually glad too that a coworker told, this is a funny story, a coworker kind of spoiled Gambit being in the movie, which is fine because I wasn't really familiar with Gambit, you know, and he gave me the backstory. He was like in a couple of the games, he never got a franchise, he was kind of forgotten, hence the whole Void situation. So I think it's really cool that I knew about that, because without that information that wouldn't have been as funny. But the fact that Channing fucking Tatum is playing that character, that's hilarious and it's fucking awesome. I think it's an amazing casting choice overall, and again, Gambit's awesome. I love that. I love that he's in the movie. The movie was almost like a second chance for some of these short-lived Marvel characters. Now, some of the cameos in the Void, they have successful franchises.
Internet. Ooh, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
More spoilers, you get Elektra and Blade, some dope vaulted characters from this world. All of the Marvel clips too that played in the TVA headquarters, even like Thor and Hulk and all them making appearances, get you in a Marvel spirit, as this definitely feels like a Marvel movie, and that's another thing they do a really good job at with this film. Thor crying was funny, just all these things. I could go on and on about the comedy. I mean, just about every single moment in this movie is funny, and maybe that's not great because it's a comic book film and it's supposed to be serious to an extent, but I think it works out really fucking well here, because this isn't a movie that's really trying to have a point. It's really just trying to have a good time, and they do a very good job at that. One more thing with the cameos. They weren't just thrown into the movie for no reason. It wasn't just, oh, let's pull forgotten Marvel characters out of a hat and say, hey, let's put this in the movie. They had purpose, and that's nice for a change, because you get a lot of comic book films nowadays, like unpurposeful cameos in here. You just wanted to make a couple of bucks. You just wanted to build hype and have spoilers and all this stuff. And I actually like how, in terms of the gore and the raunchiness, they didn't hold back a fucking bit, which was obviously a concern, given that Fox gave this to Disney over the last year, I think it was. I don't remember when they did it. It's awesome. Playing on this with jokes.
Suck it, Fox. I'm going to Disneyland. Get fucked!
Yeah, again, about Disney buying the Marvel stuff too was great. We'll obviously get into me not liking that the whole plot is basically a vehicle for that. I didn't like that they made the entire plot about it. It definitely was funny as fuck. I won't go into too much detail either, but Hugh and Ryan did just what they needed for their characters to excel in this movie, so there's that. Obviously, if you've watched other Deadpool movies, if you've watched X-Men movies, you've watched Logan, and you see what those characters are like, they do exactly that, and maybe even slightly better for this film. They do great. The music choices are fucking hilarious. Overall, they just covered all the bases. Exactly what you need for a film like this. Fights between Deadpool and Wolverine, them fighting with each other, solo fight scenes for each character, all this stuff. Again, did everything it needed. I mean, I'm gonna say in the review that I was slightly disappointed, but at the same time, it definitely met my expectations in some regard. So there is the positive. So getting into the bad, I think just the plot of this movie in general isn't all that great to me. This isn't vile, this isn't so bad I'm going to throw up, but come on, we have the Void as this whole fucking concept, and where an hour and a half of the 2 hours of the movie takes place. I commented on the over-the-top satire and comedy in Deadpool 2, and sure, the comedy here is fine, but to make satire and running jokes, again, about 60% of the storyline, and where the majority of the movie will take place, I don't know why they would make that decision. This is supposed to be a Deadpool and Wolverine movie where they're being badass. Obviously they'll have their internal conflicts and they'll fight with each other, but you're fighting off forgotten characters. I don't really like that idea. I'm not a huge fan of that. They could have done a little bit more with the story. Again, I know people say, well, it's not the point of the movie to make it, a story. The whole TVA stuff is so weird, it makes no sense. It's like a representation of the corporate part of Fox and Disney and stuff. It's just a way to get at Fox, okay, why would we as Marvel fans give a fuck about the business side of things? I don't know. It's funny at times. It has some comedic merit, for sure. I'm not denying that. The inclusion of Gambit, and again, the cameos that come out of this are cool. But things could have went differently, I feel in terms of the plot. They definitely could have done some more with it. They could have had a real life, or not a real villain, but a more legit villain in this film as well, and they just kind of failed to do that, and they make jokes oh, it's not a part of the budget. Bitch, are you fucking kidding me? You know how high of a budget this fucking movie had? Come on, guys. We're talking about Disney buying Marvel for the reason of making high budget films. Maybe this film doesn't need a good plot because it's so entertaining, but then again, without a plot, it looks like a damn money grab, and I'm not gonna label it as that. That's a bit extreme. Also, the multiverse shit. They tried this with the animated Spider-Man, and I wasn't a fan, so I definitely didn't like it here. The whole multiverse stuff with the hundreds of different Deadpools. It's funny, but getting into the okay, hence the mixed elements. I was a bit shaky on the chemistry between Deadpool and Wolverine, and a lot of people liked this about the film and thought it was the best part. Sure, they were hilarious together and they had some amazing moments, but I don't know. Maybe this matchup was a bit forced considering they are in the X. I mean, it seemed inevitable that these two are going to get together, but I don't know. I don't really feel it. That's why it's in the mixed, because I really don't know how I feel about it. And it may sound extreme that this is forced, and trust me, it's not like this matchup shouldn't have happened, but there were some disengaging moments, not only in the movie in general, but sometimes when they were together. And there is, and I say the humor is great, but there is some comedic fatigue to this movie, 100%. Also bringing back a dead superhero is always going to be a mixed element for me, because at some point, not everyone in the superhero world has to be immortal. Come on, what are we doing here? Add some fucking realism. Again, that's the realism in me. I watch a lot of surreal movies on this channel, and then I get to a comic book film and they just bend the fucking rules. Why are we bringing a dead superhero back? back into the world. Like, let him be dead. Let his legacy just live on through his past movies. I'm sort of annoyed also that the other X-Men, especially with Wolverine being in the movie, were only in one scene. I think that's super annoying. I think they could have done a lot more with that and maybe had Wolverine like reunite with some of those guys. I don't know. Am I missing something here? Maybe they weren't a part of each other in the comics. Those X-Men, I don't know. I could be just wrong. Who cares? I was also a bit shaky on this Cassandra girl as the villain. She looks badass and she seems like a legitimate villain, but she definitely put me to sleep, like almost literally as well. Like, there's good and bad about her character for sure. And one last thing, I promise I will stop yapping. This video is longer than a lot of my other videos. I'm just not sure if this film will have much longevity when it's all said and done. And that's not a bad thing, but it's definitely not a good thing. No prequels, probably no follow-ups. Well, I guess Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 were the prequel to the Deadpool part of the movie, but nothing really led to them meeting up. It was kind of like, oh, there's a mission and we're just going to select Wolverine to be with you. It's just a one-time thing. It's epic, but that will only get it so far, I feel like. Like, if this movie wants to have a legacy, I think it's going to be pretty hard to do that just because of kind of like what this is, you know. Review time, tier list time, let's get into it. I think I'm a bit disappointed in this film. Like, it's not overwhelmingly disappointing. It's not overwhelmingly bad in any sense. I definitely like it, but if it wasn't as hyped up or didn't have as many implications and it wasn't this team up and the marketing and all this stuff that went into it, I probably would have rated this thing higher. But people were shooting this shit up to the moon. The marketing was shooting this shit up to the moon. And I go to watch it and it's like, okay, that was cool. Like, Deadpool and Wolverine are awesome together to an extent. I've still kind of mixed on their chemistry. I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong, the movie's awesome in its own right, but some of the things they go for here, I don't know. I mean, especially like the plot points, especially what they decide to do. I'll pass on some of the multiverse stuff too. Like, don't even get me started. I mean, I can just watch Logan or the original Deadpool if I want my ires for these characters to be met. There are other movies in each of these franchises, Deadpool, Wolverine, X-Men, all that stuff, that I can watch and be perfectly fine with. I don't need, this movie isn't necessary to me, I feel like. It's fun and it's a moment, but there are so many other alternatives to it. There's a whole lot more good than bad to this, but some of the mixed and bad elements were pretty major, I would say. So with that being said, I'm going to give it a 7.4 out of 10. Again, it's satisfactory. Like, it does good enough, you know. It's just, I was expecting this to be even amazing or exceptional, and it just didn't quite meet that. So with that being said, I'm out, guys. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. As always, it has been your boy GZTV. We are going to be doing a top 25 albums of 2024 list type of video. I will be recording that later tonight, but I have to get to going on editing this. I'm trying to watch college football. They have the playoffs tonight. There's some basketball. As always, I'm going to be doing NBA recaps, stream late night on the channel, and then we might get into Squid Games later in the weekend. So there you go. Have a good rest of your day, guys. I'm out.